The Way Out Podcast, episode 292.
So what's your name?
Bridge Sky.
Bridge Sky. Such a cool name, by the way.
Thank you. I picked it myself.
Oh, no, you did not.
I sure did.
Oh, okay. I didn't know babies could pick their name.
I did it as an adult after my divorce.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Well, see, I didn't even know that. I'm really like, I got to hear this story. All right. What bridge was your substance of choice, or DOC?
The end there was definitely alcohol, but I played with lots of those things, substance things.
Yeah.
I like to say that I'm an addict, and just I mean by I'm addicted to more of anything that makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what is your recovery date, if you keep track?
I do. It's December 20th of 2019.
Nice. That's what's up. And how do you serve the recovery community?
Many ways. Service is a big deal to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's my hardcore passion and really purpose now, day to day. And I mean, there's a long list, but I find that just my job at Minnesota Recovery Connection, giving that peer one-to-one support is awesome, because I didn't have that. And I think that was a big piece of my years of struggle, is finding that connection with people I knew weren't judging me. I knew genuinely were supporting, would be supportive and just unconditionally love me. I didn't have that. And now I get to give that.
Right. But that's just one way. So what are the other ways?
Okay. The brochures that you see.
Mm-hmm.
I read one of those a week. I get to pass those out at county fairs and state fairs.
Okay.
I'm a park board member at Serenity Shores up in Scandia. That's great.
Nice.
I didn't know I should bring a list. I do back to basics workshops. That's like the big book, the way they did it back in the 1940s. That's fun. Now, recently, I've been newly certified as a trainer. I actually have one coming up, but I'm going to be doing the naloxone overdose training.
Awesome.
For folks. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Gonna have a little podcast.
Okay, I was like, and?
That's my fun thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely, it is service for other people, but mostly it's for myself. I need that relief. I do a lot during the week, and I want to talk about it. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of people that really want to sit and talk recovery I could go hours. Luckily, I keep my show to about an hour. But it's definitely my reprieve of all the awesomeness of the world, the arena, the recovery arena.
Yes, and it's called K.I.S.S Recovery 101, you guys. It's on YouTube. Check it out.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, it's not sexual.
No.
This is the last introduction question. What does recovery mean to you?
Recovery is a beautiful thing. I feel like it's ongoing. And for me right now, I'm just in recovery. I'm healing, I'm growing, I'm learning. I love being the concept of always being teachable, always being open-minded. Like, I have these opinions or these experiences and these views, but I love when someone changes my mind. So I seek that. So recovery for me, where I'm at today, is I make the choice to not use substances because I want to be clear-minded. I want my body to be clear and open and pure, and not get faltered or lost the way I used to. And I didn't even know who I was. So recovery is a daily thing for me.
Amen.
The beautiful thing.
Work is never done.
Correct.
Welcome, Way Out faithful and first-timers, to this week's installment of the Way Out podcast. We appreciate your ears. Our mission is simple: to bring you powerful recovery stories and recovery power topics so you can jumpstart or re-energize your recovery from alcoholism and addiction. The Way Out podcast does not speak on behalf of, nor are we affiliated with any 12-step organization. The Way Out podcast is a proud supporter of Transitions Daily. Would you like to join a free, anonymous, online group that offers a daily topic email with popular recovery resources accompanied by a secret Facebook group for discussion? Go to dailyaaemails.com for more information about Transitions Daily. Don't forget to share dailyaaemails.com with friends, in meetings, and with sponsees in recovery. Make sure to check us out on the web at www.wayoutcast.com. There you can subscribe to ensure you get the latest episodes first on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Help us recover out loud by giving us a 5-star rating and review on your favorite podcast app. Your voice matters, so share your thoughts on recovery with us by calling us at 218-382-1960 or leaving a message with us on the Anchor app, available for Android and Apple. Someone, somewhere needs to hear your share. Listen up, everyone. Certified and professional recovery coaching is now available by going to wayoutcast.com and then clicking on Recovery Coaching. We want to help you and those you know who want help in building a strong, rewarding, and enduring recovery. Let our recovery experience and training enhance and strengthen your recovery by visiting wayoutcast.com and then clicking on Recovery Coaching. Finally, a word of caution. This podcast may contain strong language and mature content. Listener discretion is advised. The Way Out podcast is on right now. I'm Charlie, and in this edition of The Way Out, our spectacular recovery co-host Jason brings us a must-listen interview with a tireless, passionate, and humble servant in the Minnesota recovery community, Bridge May Sky. Bridge has had a long, hard road, especially with her recovery. Service turned out to be the magic ingredient that she needed to achieve meaningful and enduring recovery. Bridge shares her journey to and through recovery to this point and how being of service has completely changed the game for her. A single mother of 5, Bridge is an absolute superstar, a true champion for the recovery community, and a fantastic mom to boot. Bridge is also the creator and host of her own live interactive podcast called K.I.S.S Recovery 101, where both Jason and I had the honor of being guests to share our stories and talk recovery. In addition, Bridge is also a recovery coach at Minnesota Recovery Connection, and true to her MO, she has some other exciting things in the old works. You'll definitely want to stay tuned to hear Bridge's amazing recovery story and all of the spiritual and recovery wisdom embodied within it. So listen up.
Hey, everybody out there in Way Out Podcast Land, what's up? I'm your trusty co-host, Jason, and I got with me today good friend, Bridge Sky. What's up, Bridge?
Hello.
Hey.
J-Dog.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Just came up with that. You like it?
It's good. It's great. Yeah, it's actually,
90s.
It's one of the old school nicknames. J-Bone was the one that was the most prominent.
Really?
Yeah, J-Bone was like the most prominent nickname that I had. I had many, you know.
Oh,
when I had my long hair, I was Jesus. Then I was Mouth for a while. All the sorts of names. Rudy, Rude Boy. You know, lots of different plays on Rudine. You know, people want to
sure.
make it all about rudeness, which they weren't wrong. You guys, Bridge is awesome, and she's really got a heart for service. That's one of the things I love most about this chick. She's got her hands in a lot of different ovens right now, and you know, I did your show, K.I.S.S Recovery 101. What was that? Maybe 2 months ago, month and a half ago, something like that. And I got to tell you, I was really looking forward to this because you got to know a lot about me that day. but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really get to know a lot about you per se, aka your story, but I could tell that you were passionate, and we had an awesome time talking recovery. And just, when you light up, and I light up like that still to this day. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
one of the people comment on it once in a while, like, love the enthusiasm. And it's just like, I can't help it. I'm like, I love this shit.
Yes.
So it's cool.
Passionate.
Yeah. And it's cool to see somebody else who's really on fire for it. And I know there's no shortage of people out there, but I want to get to know all y'all if you're on fire for recovery, because I love hearing people's stories and what means something to them, today that maybe didn't before. So
We be lit in a positive way.
amen. Amen. I like it. Up with hope, down with dope. So Bridge, first, before we get started, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience and maybe tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started from there.
Okay, well, let's just keep it present. Full name, Bridge May Sky. I was born and raised in St. Paul. Currently, though, I'm living in Blaine. But I love my job. There's that beautiful quote that says, if you find a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And that legit is my life right now. I'm not even kidding. I get into work and I get to be at like the mothership of all the resources of recovery. And I get to help people. Mm-hmm. So I'm never looking at the clock. And many days I'm like, oh crap, lunch is, well, I guess I'm not doing lunch today. It's already like, it's already past 2:00. And like, I feel like my days fly by. Like there's just so much opportunity for me to give back. And there's so many people out there still struggling. So it's the scarier world out there with, the fentanyl stuff. And I mean, it's every day we're losing people. Every 7 minutes we're losing lives to overdose. And so like, I feel like my job is hour to hour, minute to minute. Like I'm taking that stuff seriously. And, but it's not work for me. It's like my purpose. And it's taken 40 plus years to really feel this compassion for life and to really feel like I found my purpose. And every morning, I have that intention of giving back a piece of what I was given. And so,
right.
I mean, that's where I'm at today.
That's something, isn't it? Like, similarly, I came into recovery when I was 35, but I didn't get it till I was 36. And then the first couple of years were a real struggle, but it was even in the struggle, like when I had nothing, it was like the best time of my life, like being in, inpatient treatment with a bunch of other people who were down and out. But there was some of us that were really digging in, and boy, the freedom that you get from like forgiveness and accountability and being honest and like shedding the secrets and the lies. It's like, you feel like you're walking on cloud 9, like you're floating, and it's like, it's so cool when you experience those things, the feeling of purpose, the feeling of like having a meaningful life, and like you have some kind of, value in the world. And dude, I mean,
it's a freedom. It's just this freedom I've never experienced. I started recovery right away at 21. And so I didn't get it for 17 years. Yeah. But I was such a different person. I was so isolated. I was so empty on the inside. So where I sit today, it's just, I literally don't even recognize who I was, right. And many people who didn't know me, not even 3 years ago, are like, don't recognize me at first. And it's not because my physical appearance has changed. It's just my whole energy and aura and how I carry myself is so different.
Well, you have a presence now, and I didn't know you then, but from the way you just described it, it sounds like you were probably sitting back in the corner and not talking to anybody chairs before. And now you're like, you have a presence when you walk in the room, you're glowing, you're you're using your voice, you're getting to know people, and you're building connections, and it's great. I think sometimes about that though, what you were saying, and I'm just like, it's sad to me. It's sad to me in a way that I've spent so many years, you know, stuck in the stuff. But I also, every time I start feeling that, I just have to shut that down and be like, God's perfect timing. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and all of that served its purpose, right? Because it all really it becomes gifts in the here and now in recovery.
They say wisdom is just healed pain. And so all that pain and struggle, all those experiences that I went through, I used to do the why me? Why does this keep happening to me?
Yeah.
And now I can say, oh, I get it. Now I know why. Because that got me to where I'm at today. I can understand and connect with the women in my circles almost instantly because I'm loud and because I could say I have this freedom and I don't care what anyone thinks about me anymore, right, that I can say something so dark and heavy, but just one person in that room will come up to me and say, I'm so glad you said that. I thought that didn't happen to anyone else. I thought I was the only one. And so it's just encouraged me to share those dark things in my past. And I wouldn't have those things if I didn't go through that stuff. So
damn right.
Lived experience, right?
Amen. And it's going to be awesome now to get to hear about your lived experience, because I have yet to hear your story. So without further ado, I'm going to set you off running. We like to start it off with family of origin stuff. So what was it like growing up? And start there and tell the whole tale. Tell the whole tale.
Okay. Well, I don't know how much time we have, so I'll do a condensed version.
We got all the time you need, girl. We don't do time restraints around here.
I kind of like those restrictions, because then I can skip over a lot of stuff.
Well, you only have, I'm not going to try to squeeze you for anything you're not willing to share. So just share what you feel comfortable with.
Okay, well, get ready, because
I'm ready.
Book.
I'm so ready, dude.
Okay, well, let's see. I was adopted. I have a twin brother. And a lot of people like to say, oh, that's so awesome. You were adopted with your brother. And it's always hard to explain how it feels when people say that, because yes, a lot of people think, oh, you were adopted. That's such a gift. Well, I just like to clarify, and how I'll start my story in treatment when I speak in treatments is adopted doesn't mean wanted. So what I mean by that is my parents probably had this great idea of being, well, I think we were the first twins to come into their foster care. And I think they thought, cool, we should adopt these twins, because they really went around saying how loud and proud they were that I was never introduced as, this is my daughter, and this is my brother as my son. Right. They always introduced us as, yeah, these are the kids we adopted. So
I don't know why I'm laughing at that.
It's so weird. I would just watch people's reactions, like, what did they just say? So nobody I ever met for my whole life did not know that I was not blood related to these people.
Like I could see saying that if they were foster kids, but still, these are the kids we're fostering. That's different. But once you've adopted them, they are legally your children. You would say, these are my kids.
Right. And we came into their foster care at like 5 months old. So we were babies. Wow. So they raised us. So yeah, I don't know. So right there, that tells you their mindset. Their minds weren't on a healthy level. I don't know how to explain it. So there's a lot of weird things that I've shared, and people are like, oh wow, that's just weird. But yeah, so it was weird growing up. And I mean, it took a minute to even get into their foster care. So my birth mom, as I know today, drug addict. And so we were taken away from her. and given to another family. So my birthday was completely different. I was a Donna Brune when I was born. Okay, so like a puppy dog, as I was switching homes, it's very weird to me that people would change a child's name. So it's very weird to me. So then I was changed to Bridget Sweeney. And then
So your name was Donna.
I've had 5 names in my life. So that's why this
What?
last round,
Whoa.
I decided to name a damn self.
And you gave yourself like a name that like
Still similar.
that Frank Zappa would name his child.
Why do you say that?
Because it's a joke. I'm just being stupid, but no, Frank Zappa like named his kids like Moon Unit and Star Child.
Oh,
and stuff
because
like
of
that.
Sky.
Like he was a total like, LSD
Hippie?
freak, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I was tripping. But no, I was just giving you shit. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Don't be hurt.
Sorry, you're not sorry. It takes a lot to hurt my feelings these days. So yeah, so Bridget Vance, and then I was married, Bridget Private. So my last name actually was Private. I got a lot of shit for that. So I've had weird names. So
I'm such a child.
So at the end of the day, I'm like, I want my name to be as short, sweet, and can be spelled correctly the first time around. So that's why I went with Bridge Sky. And my kids later in life, I want them to hyphen. And I thought Sky is just a 3-letter word. I love nature, right? And so, yeah, so Bridge, May, Sky. And it's wonderful because if anyone still like knew me as Bridget and they call me Bridget, it's so funny because I immediately turn my head like, oh, I'm in trouble. Who's calling? Who knows my old name? Uh-oh. It gives me a little fear and a reminder of where I used to be. Because I loved Bridge. My best friends always called me Bridge. Yeah. And so that's why I chose to just take off the T and I'm going to be me.
Well, that's funny because I was going to say there must have been something you liked about being Bridget, because I always assumed that Bridge was just short for Bridget. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the main assumption.
I had no idea that you ever actually changed your name. So
yeah, so when people are like, oh, do you mean Bridget? I'm like, no, it's legally Bridge. It sounds like I'm angry, but I didn't think it through, really. I didn't put that much thought process into it. I just thought everybody's going to be my best friend, whether they like it or not. Bridge, hey!
That's because you're building bridges.
There you go. There's a recovery place, a treatment center, I think, called Bridges.
Yeah.
I want to go work there. How
because
confusing would that be?
Oh, that'd be cool. This is Bridge with Bridges.
They're like, you messing with me? No, I'm actually Bridge.
I was meant to work here. I was meant to work here.
But yeah, so anyway, long story short. But yeah, so my brother and I, unfortunately, it was not a safe, healthy environment. My parents were not alcoholics or addicts. However, I think anger is an addiction. And my adopted dad, was a very violent person, a very angry person, 0 to 10 over the smallest things. Like he could go red over anything. And so we grew up in a very physically abusive house. I mean, I think when I moved out, it took me a year or two not to flinch when anyone moved around me, and people would make fun of me, but they obviously didn't realize like that was a thing for me. Like I was used to being hit on a daily basis. Just looked at him wrong or don't be sorry. Like I'm over it. Like I needed therapy and all that, but it definitely
it's
wasn't
something that
easy start.
I feel for you anyway, like that's not easy and that's not easy to overcome, No. Yeah.
But my brother and I joke, you gotta laugh at stuff, but these days, But we just joked that like our parents basically taught us what not to be as parents. And we unfortunately, like our cousins and stuff, we would say, we're great. We're thankful that our we're not blood family because the whole bloodline, there was just a lot of messed up stuff. And it was kind of like my dad's whole side. They were just aggressive 0 to 10 men, kind of noticed that. And like on my mom's side, total codependency issues across the board. And like with my mom, I think I had, it took me a while, but I had a huge resentment on her because she always took his side, you know, because I would ask her like, why? I remember asking weird questions like, why do you let him hit us? Because he would never hit her. You know, I think any frustrations he had with her, he took out on us because, you know, he knew we wouldn't tell because he would say to me, I mean, he would threaten to send us back to foster care. And in my mind, you know, I didn't understand the world. And I just thought, I can't lose my brother. This is the only family that I have. And so I wouldn't tell. And I remember caseworkers bringing us in and questioning us because other foster care kids got to go back to their parents and would tell some stuff that had gone on, and I would lie. So I learned to lie at a very early age, and I didn't understand anything of what I was doing. So I learned to wear a mask my whole life. So
yeah,
I still have that. It's definitely rooted in me to initially always smile, to work hard, to put on this front that everything's okay. And it could be the house of horrors that I was going back to. So, but yeah, I definitely spent most of my childhood working. I started working at 11. Yeah. You know, I always had 2 or 3 jobs. I just never wanted to be home. So people thought I was a goody 2-shoes, but I was working my ass off to get the heck out of the house, you know?
Yeah.
It wasn't about pleasing anybody but myself. I got my car, you know, I had my own apartment, 2 full-time jobs by the time I was 17. I graduated, and that was the condition that they had, was we could leave. I mean, it was crazy. The amount of every minute. My house was like a prison because I knew they were so worried that people were going to find out what was going on, that every minute of my life was controlled. What we ate, what we dressed, how the doors always had to stay open. Like I literally would have to sit in my living room for hours at a time because I couldn't even talk to my friends on the phone. I remember having a conversation with one of my friends and I had to sit in the living room. I accidentally said something I shouldn't have said. I don't even know what it was. It probably wasn't. I knew to be smart about what I said, but I said something that he thought was, and he came right up to me and smacked the phone in my face. So I had to pick the phone back up. You know, my mouth is bleeding and try to. She was like, "Oh, what was that? Everything okay?" Like, yeah, everything's okay. You know, it was just horrible.
Wow.
Yeah,
I dropped the phone.
Yeah, that was my fault. My bad.
Right. Man, that sucks. That's shitty. So you just busted your ass and you got out of there when you were 17, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So what was that experience like for you?
It was weird. I remember first being in my apartment. I had a roommate, and I remember just sitting on the couch and being like, I don't know what to do with myself. I've never not had to, like, you know, follow authority or, you know, not live in fear. And so, and I did though, when I look back, I was so afraid of people. Like I saw firsthand the worst side of human beings and what they are behind closed doors, that I really thought that nobody, you know, in the world actually were good people. I didn't really believe there were genuinely good people in the world. I always thought they wanted something from me, or, you know, there was always some second agenda. I never really believed that people could be good in home and in real life. So
you know, I wonder why, because like your home is supposed to be your safe place. And if you're in danger and in fight or flight all the time in your own home, you know, of course you're going to have deep-seated trust issues and be full of fear. you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally.
There was no I love yous, no hugs and kisses in my house at all. So that's what brings me to the next segment of my life. It was kind of funny.
Oh, there's segments?
Yeah.
All right.
I just remember key points.
Chapter 2, everyone.
Yeah.
Chapter 2.
I remember I was working 2 jobs, and I remember my second job was just a fun job, just to get me out of the house. And I worked at a movie theater, and
Nice.
I finally accepted an invitation to go to a party. And I was 21 or almost 21. Never drank, did anything in my life. And
wow.
I was too focused on just working, and I don't even know.
It makes sense. It's just still, to me, I started when I was 11. So I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well,
I thought everybody started doing drugs when they were 11. Just kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
Proceed.
Proceed. Well, so that's when I had my first drink, like experience being drunk. And I just remember this, this wave of like this release internally, like not physically, like spiritually. I was like, this is what it feels like to not care what everybody's doing in this room, or everybody thinks about me in this room, or all my responsibilities, or all these notions in my head of what life is. It was like this huge release of like, I don't know, like a window of like, wow, is this a different way to look at life? But unfortunately, that like totally, I wanted that, and it didn't matter. That definitely triggered. I've never really had a good experience with any kind of substances. So by the second time, I was puking, and I didn't know anything about drinking. I just knew I wanted more of that release.
Yeah.
Because I'd always been the older sister. I'd always been the responsible one. I'd always been the one following all the rules and making sure, do what I'm told. And so I was like, free for all.
Yeah.
I got this liquid courage. Now I'm funny. I'm smart. I'm charismatic. I could be outgoing. Like, it was like this magical potion, I initially thought.
Right.
But it turned into a poison really quickly. And so long story short, I had my first, it was like, unfortunately, I think a lot of my bad memories in my childhood were buried. I think that whole a lot of the stuff has been explained to me, but it's called like disassociation. So a lot of stuff, even today, I have to catch myself. If I feel unsafe, or if I don't like something that's being explained to me, my brain wants to disassociate immediately. And I have to like say, no, bring it back. We're not doing that. We're not going there. So a lot of that stuff in our childhood, I disassociated and buried and blocked out. Now, my brother, on the other hand, he has a full memory. There's a lot of things he remembers I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, alcohol was the first time stuff started coming up that I didn't remember. And I think it was a couple days after my 21st birthday. I was in the hospital. I woke up with Pringles puke in my hair, Pringle chips puke in my hair. I was in Ramsey County detox.
Yummy.
I thought it was in jail. It wasn't like detox is now, like 20 years ago. I thought it was in jail. You're caught. So there was security guards. And I looked over at my left arm, and there's a 9-inch wound, and it was being held together by staples. I had over 30 staples in my arm.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened? And my sister said, the little apartment party that we were having, they called my sister to come over. And she brought my mom, which I guess, I don't remember it. I was blacked out, triggered me. I went into the bathroom, they said, and I came out, and my arm was bleeding, gushing blood, and I said something crazy that I would never say openly sober, and I just said, now I can get some effing help. And I was like, that is not me. Where did that come from? It was hard to even believe it. But apparently I took an eraser and I just, it was like I guess a cry for help, because I never thought of like trying to end my life, but I guess my subconscious mind or whatever happened when I blacked out spoke that truth. And it was crazy. So yeah, from there, but it wasn't long after I just, party to party. You put it in front of me. I didn't care. I was like, oh, something there. I don't have to be myself. Cool. Let me hit that. Let me try that. Let me smoke that. Yeah. Luckily, though, very shortly, I met a gentleman who was a leader in the group of people I was hanging around with. He was very powerful. I felt, I felt protected in his presence. He also ended up being a drug dealer. And I married him and got pregnant. I was 22. So, but this was the first time I had someone say, I love you. And I just fell like, what? You love me? And I just remember like, yes, let's do all the things, get married. But I do remember that first moment that I held my son. And it makes me emotional. I just remember that first feeling of what real, like, unconditional love feels like. And it was something I never felt before. And even still to this day, when people talk about how much they love their parents or how lost they felt when they lost their parents, I will never understand that. I just can't. But like with my kids and how they look at me and how I feel with them, to me, that is true, like, unconditional love. And I never had that. I never had that for 22 years of my life. So I was able to stay, sober and clean between pregnancies, but we got married young and we didn't even know who we were. And we just grew into different people. And I mean, I can skip a whole bunch, but it was just a roller coaster of life. And I would think I had this notion that I didn't have a problem because I could stop when I was pregnant, right? I could stop when I was nursing. So I'm like, I don't have a problem. See, I can control it. I can stop when I want to. And at the end of the day, when, he serves me with divorce papers, that's when I realized I couldn't stop. And it was a really dark place, dark time in my life. And I remember I almost collected my 18-month medallion. And I remember thinking, there were so many things. Do you have any questions? I feel like I'm rambling.
No.
Do you want to gauge me?
I will
back to something.
No, dude. Honestly, I tend to I try to hold space, for the guests. And if I want to relate or want to ask for somebody to expand on something a little bit, or if I just feel like we're getting hung up in like the same thing over and over kind of deal, maybe I'll steer it in a different direction. But no, I mean, I don't feel that way about what you're sharing. And I was just intently listening. So
you're following me?
I don't want you to shut yourself down either. Cause this, I know it's uncomfortable and I know it's hard, but this can be a really like a healing experience as well, to be able to share some stuff that you haven't maybe shared. And that's the juicy stuff. That's the magic juice, that's going to help somebody out there listening. And you're helping me, Bridge. So no, I don't have any questions really about, because I feel like your flow is going really good and I was enjoying what I was listening to. So If you want to
Keep
talk about a
rolling.
different thing, then you can, but otherwise, by all means, continue.
Keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep going. Here we go.
Okay. All right.
Well, it's like for a few seconds, I realized we're being recorded because I share my story in treatment centers, and that's my jam. That's where I feel the most like at ease. Like those are my peoples. I was in 3 treatments.
Yeah.
And I always it's weird to explain, but I always feel at home when I speak in treatment centers. And when I shared my story at an Al-Anon recently amongst peers, it was terrifying because, so I have 2 years. But when I'm sitting there with the old timers or the folks that have 20, 30 something years, I feel like sometimes I'm a bit much. But anyway, so I had my daughter. So my 3rd child, I had my daughter. And I remember we had to move out of our apartment in St. Paul. And she was...
is this when you're still with the first husband?
Yes. Only husband. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. How silly.
No, that's okay. Well, the key point was it was our attempt. I think it was his last attempt to try to save this marriage. And he knew I always wanted a girl. And we had our 2 boys, and we were not going to have any more, but he knew a piece of, I always wanted a girl. So he said, well, let's try one more time. Let's just see if we get this girl. We got this girl, but guess what? Right after she was born, it was joy for a few months, but that didn't fix anything in our relationship. So we ended up moving. And I think within 6 months of moving out to the trailer park, he had to walk away. And, by all means, where I sit today, I never thought I'd be saying this, but, it definitely wasn't anyone's fault. He was dealing with me, and I didn't even know who I was. I had been so lost in my addictions that I was so empty on the inside. Like I was dead inside, and I didn't even love myself. How could I love anyone else, And so I'm sure he felt that. And that's why he went out and found someone else and served me with divorce papers. But for me, I got married to whatever the vows said, forever, right? Thick and thin till death do us part. So when this happened, I was like, what? And for me, that's when I really went to that darkest place in my life. And
well, this kind of confirmed, right? Like everything that you thought before when you were living with your, adoptive parents, and like you never were told that they loved you and that you never felt safe in your home, and you didn't think that anybody could really like genuinely love and care for somebody or be a genuinely good person. So It's like, this dude gave you hope that was not true. And then this has probably brought up all that old shit too, on top of the, already present moment traumas that you were dealing with the issues in your relationship and the divorce. I mean,
big time. Actually, when you say that, that really points out to me, like, since I was born, I was given away. I'd never felt wanted. Yeah. And so the fact that he found someone else and, again, I was rejected. I was not wanted, and even the love of my children, it was still not this, there was still just so much like this black hole inside me that I didn't know how to fill, but I knew how to like temporarily mask it with substances.
Yeah.
And, but over time, especially alcohol's a depressant. So I just remember I remember meeting my now forever sponsor, my guide. And it was the first time I went to a women's meeting. And I remember, so I wasn't fully clear-headed when I first went to that meeting, but I remember her because I remember her being so welcoming and literally like welcoming me. And then at the end of the meeting, just saying that to come back, and that she cared about me. So when the divorce started, I remember going and seeing her at this meeting. And that's when I decided to like try to really give this, recovery thing a try. I initially I remember going to a meeting when I was 21, but that was like a bunch of old guys in a church basement. It was scary. So, but I remember finding this women's meeting, and I never forgot about her. So I was able to get some good sobriety time and really started to be okay with, somewhat being by myself. But every time the kids would go to visit their dad, I was left by myself.
Right.
And I remember getting that year, and I thought, see, I can control it. And the kids were gone. And for no good reason, except to test myself, I went and got a 6-pack.
Well, you know what they say, idle time. Idle time's the devil's plaything.
Oh, yeah. And I look at it now as like, I've been so used to being by myself. I had been so used to protecting myself, and just never dawned to me that like that emptiness was me needing connection, even though I'm used to pain and suffering and being alone, but my soul needs that connection. So if I don't do that on a daily basis, it's really easy for me to get comfortable with pain and going right back in that dark hole again. So,
right.
But I do remember that luckily I didn't spend too much time. I'm trying not to jump around. So I have 5 children, so I'm trying to space this up. So I remember I met sober, mind you. I met my two youngest sons. I met their dad, and so I was married for 10 years to a normie, right? A normal drinker, quote unquote, normal drinker.
Drug dealer.
And, yes.
But he's normie.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was one of those that he can smoke weed here and there and function, and he can smoke other things. He did then, he calmed down after the kiddos, but he never understood me. And I remember moving into the trailer, and he was like, all these years saying, you're an alcoholic, you need to stop. And I remember him actually saying when we moved to this trailer, he goes, I was kind of thinking we should just get a keg to keep in the kitchen. And I'm like, what? If you say I'm an alcoholic, we can't get a keg and keep it in the kitchen. Like, he just never understood it. It was pretty funny.
He's like, I'm sick of running to the fucking store all the time.
Yeah. Well, yes. And he thought he could control my drinking. But, I did, if you read in the stories, I did all those things. I knew where to hide my stuff and make it look like I wasn't drinking as much as I was drinking, and just smoke this and that, and you wouldn't know. But I know.
You're so sneaky.
I thought I was fooling everybody. No,
I know.
I wasn't even fooling myself.
Everybody knew, bro.
Yes. But yeah, I remember I met my 2 youngest dad, and I was sober, and that was for the first time in my life. I was working with Marcy. I was actually I feel like it was a pink cloud time for me, because I'm like, I got this, and I met him, and he told me that he couldn't have kids. What is that called?
Like impotent?
Yes. So I believed him. And within 6 to 8 months of us dating, oops, how am I pregnant? How did this happen? And so I had to learn.
You didn't think to like,
way.
Have you ever tested your sperm, or like go get like some confirmation maybe of this fact, or just whatever?
I just, the only relationship I had was my marriage, and he told me that.
I'm just saying, it's a little surprising that you trusted him so much, because that's a big thing to trust when you have like trust issues, like deep-seatedly, for a good reason.
Well, I was smoking a lot of green then.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I was, I should put that detail in. So yes, I was sober from alcohol.
Yeah. Dude, that was the story of my life. Give up one crush for another.
Yes. But I felt good because I wasn't drinking it. But yeah, long story short, but that was the first time. So anyway, he was happy at first because it was his first son, and I was happy, whatever, for him. I loved him. I really did. That was the first time like I loved someone, met someone sober, and had this like experience with someone completely when alcohol wasn't even like I was making that choice to be in recovery.
Yeah.
And
Was he in recovery or what?
no, he smoked weed. That was about it. So I didn't, I thought he was a normie. However, about a month after we found out I was pregnant, he's like, well, I gotta go to Rochester. I gotta visit family. It's been a while since I've seen this family. And 1 week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by. And
Damn.
I call him and I'm like, are you coming back? Like, what's going on here? And he's like, no, I'm not. And that was it. And that was the first time
Fucking
I was
weird.
Yes. Okay. Well, long story short, I find out later, 8 months later, he calls me and he says, I just want you to know, I'm with someone else. She's pregnant and I'm a full-blown meth addict. What? I didn't know that. That's why I left Rochester. He did not tell me that information. So I went from a normie to an addict, and I just felt lost. And here I am, pregnant and alone. And I never been alone pregnant before, So it's just
all them hormones and nobody to lash them out at.
Right. What do I do? So immediately after I had my then third son, I went right back into drinking and using. I was by myself. I had, it's such a blur. I could ramble on. So here's what's funny. So I went back and forth, and I'm working the program. And so I'm trying to be the best person that I can be. And he asked if he could be there for his first son's birth, and at first I'm like, hell no, you ain't been here. You ain't blah, blah, blah. I was making it about me. And at the end of the day, when I sat down, I'm like, who am I to take that experience away from him? So I agreed that, yes, you can be there. And, I just got this notion, like, he didn't have a ride. Like, this was the winter, let me tell you. So I went all the way down to pick him up, right? And at this point, it's like due date's about a week away. Well, guess what happens? The night I pick him up, guess what happens?
Water breaks.
I get back home, my water breaks, Jason.
Jeez.
So no time to like think about anything or have a plan or process anything. And so I legitly went
Well,
into
I'm
this,
sure
like,
your anxiety over the whole situation
Yes.
didn't help. It probably helped speed that up too,
Mm-hmm. Well, and the whole experience of, having my son and him being there, my dumb ass was like, okay, we could make this work. He broke up with her. Like I could oversee all that stuffs. Unfortunately though, that didn't work out. And so my son was born in May, and in August, I remember, so he would stay at my house and take care of our son, and I would go to work, and I remember seeing him become really sad, and I didn't recognize how bad it was. And I started to reach out to like his mom and his sister. I'm like, hey, I'm really worried about him. And I remember we had an argument, and at the time I was playing on a volleyball league, and I'm like, you know what? I will just take all the kids. I'm going to bring them to the game with me. You just take some time. Let's pause. Let's figure out what we're doing here, because this is not okay. And I remember our son at the time, just a baby, always the best baby, but at the game, he wouldn't stop crying. And so I had to leave the game early, I think there was a reason. And I remember going home, and the doors were chained, and I knew something was wrong. And this is a trailer. So I busted down the door, and I found him, and he was blue. and he had a tie around his neck, because he attempted to end his life. And that was some like crazy stuff. So I luckily got home in time. I was able to get some breaths in him and get the rope and call 911 right away. And those, I tell you, must have been minutes. He was on life support for 5 weeks.
Wow.
And
the children witnessed all this too?
My oldest, no, the 3 youngest ones were, luckily I was close with my neighbors. But my oldest son, yeah, he was there. I had to have him go to get the phone to the neighbor to get them there because I had to get him breathing,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the first time I ever
sounds scary.
Saw someone that I loved almost die. And I just remember going to the hospital with our son. He was on a life support, and I just remember bringing him there because they were telling me he wasn't going to make it, or if he was going to make it, he was going to be a vegetable. And I remember that was the first time I started drinking again, like hardcore drinking again. I think after weeks, and I would ask family or friends, or my quote unquote family or friends at the time, like, will somebody come with me to this hospital? Because this family blamed me. They didn't know what was going on. Whatever he was saying to them, so, they were scared too, and they were confused, but literally they just had so much judgments on me. And it was really hard to go there by myself and deal with them. And just, they said so many things that, I don't know, I just never gave up. I would hold his hand. I mean, I stayed that first night with him. And I just remember having conversations with him when they weren't around and just saying, you're going to pull through this. I'm going to make sure that you pull through this. And they all believed that he was going to die. And so it was validating when the main doctor looked across the room and all his family was there. And he goes, he's going to make it. And I want you to know, he looks right at me. He goes, I want you to know it's because of something, partly, what you did in those moments. And so that was kind of nice because the family all hated me at that point. And I was like,
Right.
I never lost hope that he was going to make it. And so I never lose hope in the darkest of times, because I do feel like until it's said and done, I'm never going to give up. I'm never going to lose faith.
Right.
And
Yep.
so
I mean,
that
here
was
we
big
are,
time.
right?
Yeah.
I always say, I'm like, trust me, because people wonder how I can say that there's always hope. I get that sideways sneer often when I say that to people who are in struggle. And I'm like, look, dude, you don't know me. You didn't know me then anyway. And if I'm here and I'm spreading hope and I'm trying to, live the best way I can and learn how to be a better man, and it's working, I'm like, trust me, that ain't me. And if I could be here, then you can too. And
Oh yeah.
and I think about like what it must have been like for him. Because I'm assuming he probably wasn't doing meth when he came to stay with you, or was he? Okay,
No, he
so
wasn't.
now look at this. When you're a meth addict, it can take up to 24 months. So 2 full years before your brain starts to or reaches a level of homeostasis, so like your brain chemistry is so fucked up, and you have anhedonia, which is the inability to experience joy or pleasure. And he was dealing with that while becoming a new dad, and then being the primary caregiver to that small child.
Yeah.
Like when you were there with your child, he was there, but he was the only one that had to be alone with the child. And babies are hard, dude.
Yes.
Like, I mean, they're wonderful, but like, especially if they have colic. I don't know if your baby was colicky, but dude, that's rough. And I can imagine he just felt very alone in it, and probably
overwhelmed.
Well, yeah. And then he was unable to experience the joy of it all, because he had anhedonia. That sucks.
And he didn't, That's what, yeah, he didn't talk about it, you know, because especially with males, it's like it's weakness to really talk about what's really going on. And so I
Right.
had no idea that he was in such a that dark of a place that he would attempt to take his own life.
Well, I think too, when you're in that uh, type of state, you just you get frustrated with yourself and you think something's wrong with you. And that's hard, you know. It's hard
Mm-hmm.
to talk about it because it's painful to talk about. Uh, you know, it's like one of those things that you know you want to say something, but you can't seem to say the words. You just can't seem to get it to come out of your mouth. You know what I mean? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's a horrible feeling. Like you feel paralyzed by that. Um, the need to express and also the inability or unwillingness to express simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy. It's fucking hard. So, man, I'm super glad to hear he made it, though. That's amazing.
Yes. Yes. And yes, that was such a miracle. But you know, he came out of it and he didn't remember a lot of stuff, and his family was all in his ear. So he went back to the other girl who had his other baby, um and
Mm,
we just, you know, I let him be with his family. You know, I thought he doesn't need to know. I mean, he was so confused and they said so many different things. He didn't know what was up or what was down. But I remember it was crazy because like, well, it was a year after, you know, we'd stay in conversation, you know, on the phone, but really he was focused on his new relationship with this other person. And so I just was raising our son and talked to each other here and there. But I remember he called me one day and he's like, hey, can we hang out? Like, I'd like to talk with you and it's kind of important. And so, you know, we kind of had a mutual friendship. So I picked him up and it was crazy because he got in the car and he looked over at me and, you know, this was probably the hardest year ever because I still blamed myself. You know, I blamed myself that I didn't catch that he was so sad. You know, I
yeah.
blamed myself that he almost died. You know, I had a lot of stuff that I was carrying around. He looks over at me and he goes, do you know what today is? And I go, no. He goes, well, I want to thank you because it's a year today that you saved my life. And I was like, what? He goes, yes, I want you to know that. And he waited a year to tell me all these things. He goes, I want you to know that it wasn't your fault, that decision that I made. It was nothing you did. It was nothing you said. And just like, it was this crazy, like, weight lifted.
Wow.
Because for that whole year,
Yeah.
I felt like I lived in that shame
Mm,
that I was this awful person, you know, and I'm using and I'm drinking and I'm just not even realizing how much it affected me.
right.
And so,
Well, it's hard to realize it when you're numbing it, you know?
yeah,
I mean,
running away.
yeah.
I don't want
You're
to.
trying to kill the pain. The
Mm-hmm.
pain doesn't die, it just grows in the dark.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that was,
Wow.
so there was a little thing that happened. Another child came and,
When you hung out
yeah,
for the night,
one time, I'll warn the ladies, it takes one time. That's
literally.
it.
Oh wow.
One special night of nostalgia. Oh, you saved your life. You saved my life. Yay.
Oh, let's do this.
And
Yeah. Damn.
so again,
So
alone
he went back
and
home.
pregnant.
He literally
Yes.
he went back home and you were damn.
Craziness.
Yeah.
So sober again though. You know, I got so that's why it took so long, 17 years, because between these children, I wouldn't use, you know, and I just remember being in this delusion of control for a very long time.
Yeah.
And no, I think so. It's just I definitely had like postpartum depression after my fifth child. I didn't really realize it, how bad it was, severe depression, because I was so used to it.
Yeah.
And I remember the So there's that thing called the gift of desperation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've ever hearing it all them years, and I'm like, why the WTF do people keep calling it a gift? Okay. Desperation sucks. And I hate it when they would say that.
Yeah.
And I do remember that most desperate moment. Because I had, I didn't even go into the things, but I had so many rock bottoms that many people would stop and stop digging, they would that would be it. But for me, it wasn't until that most desperate moment. And I love Brene Brown because she explains beautifully the difference between guilt and shame. And I didn't realize how long I was living in shame, because shame is I am a mistake. Guilt is I made a mistake. And so if I was living in shame, I really got to so dark in a place, and I wasn't talking about it. And it consumed me so much. And I believed all the negative people that were in my life at the time. And I really felt that I was this horrible person. And I really started to believe that my kids would be better off without me. And I remember this moment where I just woke up and I couldn't do it anymore. And I remember I felt like my reason at the last time was I'm going to stay sober for the kids. And when I couldn't even do it for my children, I thought, I don't belong here. And I remember I took all the things at the house. It was like over 100 pills of this and that. And I remember taking my youngest son. Now he's 5, but not my second youngest son. My other one was in his crib, and I remember taking his brother in the bed with me, and I knew I accepted death. And that was my most desperate moment, that I was ready to die. And I I didn't think it through because the nanny was going to be coming. So if I would have been, I'm glad that I wasn't really a good planner in that notion, but they did come. My nanny came, and they got me. They got an ambulance there, and they were able to save me. But that most desperate moment, and I never can imagine ever going back there, because I can't even, that poor girl that I was so lost and just so broken and so damaged. And I remember just feeling like this world would be better off without me. And it just makes me so sad for myself, because I was willing to die, because I thought my children would be better off without this shitty ass mom. And so I was pretty angry when I woke up in the hospital, because I wasn't supposed to live.
Right.
And I remember being so angry, like, what is going on? But now I can say today that is a gift that thankfully my higher power gave me, because I knew in that moment, even though I was angry about it, something's keeping me here, because I know I wasn't supposed to be here. I made that choice not to be here. And we didn't even talk about experiences where I'm surprised that I survived being here. But I knew in that moment, something's keeping me here. Unfortunately, CPS had been knocking at my door for a while. And all the wolves that had been waiting, those dark wolves have been waiting, they jumped in. So there was lots of consequences after that. And it was a gift. It forced me to really understand the concept that always made me upset. People would say, Bridge, you have to put yourself first. You have to put recovery first. And because of my childhood, I never could understand that. I'm like, no, that's selfish. My kids come first, because I know what it feels like to be last. And I'll never, I hate it when people tell me that. I never understood it until my kids were taken away from me. And that's when I realized, if I don't put myself first and my kids first, they're not going to be here ever. And so I remember going home after that whole experience, and they were gone. And
Right.
I'll be honest. I mean, it took a couple weeks because I was really on that cusp of the fuck it's or get my shit together,
Yeah.
because they weren't there. My whole purpose for living, I felt, was gone.
Right.
So I angrily, decided I'm just going to do the things. I'm done thinking about the past. I'm done thinking about all the reasons or this or that. I'm just going to follow these suggestions of these people's,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens. Because
run the experiment.
Let's just do it. And I went to meeting after meeting. I got court ordered, the 30 meetings, 30 days. I was on the waiting list of one treatment. I was on a waiting list for another treatment. I was so desperate to figure this out, why I was here, and to get my kids back, that I did above and beyond. I somehow convinced them to let me do outpatient so I could stay at my full-time job, so I could keep the house, this empty house, for my kids to come back to. And then I also got to, I think what really finally changed, made me even realize how messed up my thinking was, my patterns of thinking, was I got into DBT treatment as well. So I was doing 2 treatments. And it's not that the 12 steps, I mean, that definitely gave me a foundation, and that will always be my foundation. But DBT was really what helped me understand my mind. And so, I remember just going to meeting after meeting, and I had nothing changes if nothing changes. So I had to change where I was originally going to meetings and go somewhere completely new where nobody knew me. Nobody could say, it's okay, you're going to be okay. Like, I need to go somewhere where nobody knew me as the relapse queen. Oh my gosh. I remember the first time I heard someone call me that. You hurt my feelings. And I was
Absolutely, it did.
Yes. Now I can laugh about it. But I was like, what would you just say?
Yeah. Oh, no, you didn't.
But it helped me to go to a new place where no one knew me. And I got over that. Oh, I'm late to this meeting, so I can't go to this meeting. And I got over that. Oh, I don't know anybody in this room. I better go to no, there was no excuses. Like, I had to get it done. And it got me over that extreme people anxiety.
Yeah.
And I love, I'm sure everyone hears this, but I love that you're only late. You're not late. You're only late to the first meeting, that you ever go to. That's the only one you're ever late for. So get your ass in here, sit down.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
We got your seat waiting for you.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. And it's never too late to learn better, to unlearn what you know, and to learn stuff that really works for life. Because and two, I would say professional help is that was a part of my journey as well. I had to go to therapy for like a year and a half. I had to do anger management. I had to take parenting classes because those were areas in which I felt that I was like a huge piece of shit, like, and so it's good to attack it from every angle you can, because you only get this one life. And I can honestly say, like, today, I'm grateful that I was given the gift of 2 lives, completely separate lives in one lifetime, because I shouldn't be alive either. You know what I mean? And that's awesome to think, because it is completely different now. And I mean, I don't think I would go back, but I also recognize, and I take stock. I try to trust people and the experiences they share in meetings and in the recovery community at large, when they tell me that, you can always go back too. So it's like a daily reprieve, and I only have, today. So I just got to do that and keep living for today and keep doing this recovery deal. The fuck happened?
I do not know.
Well, it says it's recording. Where did it cut me off at?
I don't know. That was like a good 10 seconds there.
Son of a bitch. Of course that would happen.
some good fire stuff there.
Well, whatever. Moving
But yes,
on.
you were saying what I heard was that, that professional help, helped, really understand things that like just can't get in the meetings.
Right. I mean, I was saying it's like you got to hit it from every angle possible because it's very important to, if you're fighting for your life, man, and unchecked trauma is going to keep coming back. It ain't going nowhere, and it grows in the dark. So your only chance, man, at this is to face it all, and just don't do it alone. You can face it and you can conquer it. It actually loses its strength. It loses its power when you expose it to the light anyway. So if you begin that journey, it gets easier pretty quick if you have support and guidance and you're hitting it from every angle you can think of, man. You can heal it.
Well, I think the first step for me was to really be honest, like to really be honest with myself, because I didn't realize how like I was a robot to just immediately, if I felt like you wouldn't like my answer or you were judging me, I'd shut it down. Like I'd put that wall up. And so it took a long time. And I remember just walking into that meeting and I go, you want me to be really honest? I have a desire to have your desire, but I don't really have that desire. Like I truly have a desire to have your desire. Because that's the only requirement. Yeah. And I remember just waiting for them to like kick me out. And they never did. But I just started little by little truly being honest with myself.
Yeah.
And letting the darkness out. And I tell you, once I got a taste for it, and these people in recovery in those meetings still loved me. Yeah. I couldn't stop getting all those skeletons out. Yeah. And it was wonderful. It was finally freeing. And I remember like I hated the word powerless. Like I'm not powerless. I never wanted to be weak again. I never wanted to lose control again. And I love somebody pointed out, the first two words, we were. That's past tense. The minute you walk in these rooms and the minute you want recovery, that's powerful. And I started gaining my confidence and my power back every time I choose recovery, so yeah, but powerless, that's past tense. Because every time I choose recovery every day, I'm powerful. I feel anyway within myself that I'm powerful.
I dig that. I dig that. I never heard it. I've never heard anybody lay that out like that. That's tight. I like that a lot. So you got it. You went for it. Clearly you were successful in this endeavor. So we want to hear about the good stuff too. We want to hear about this recovery life. So how is that? How has the process been for you? And like, what is that experience been like for you? How has it affected your relationships with, those around you, your kids, especially, and baby daddies and all that fun stuff, because it's crazy. You alluded to it earlier. You didn't understand how, like, if you put recovery first, right? Like, how can that be the best thing? But it's because it bleeds into every single aspect of your existence. If you really do it, you can't help but like live the program, like it says, practice these principles in all our affairs or whatever. So it's like, it just changes everything. So what has that been like for you, that whole experience?
Well, it's amazing because, Marcy, she's my sponsor, my forever sponsor. Like she was able to take me through the steps. She really believed in me. Like she never gave up on me. Like I sponsored the way she sponsored me, and she just loved me unconditionally, and she'd never give up on me. And I never had that before. I never trusted someone enough to allow, to even allow that kind of relationship. And so like that just set me off. And I shit you not, like 3 months of sobriety. And she was like, I'd really like you to consider leading this group. And I'm like, but I have like a relapse. So like, I only got 3, but I don't think I'm qualified. But she's like, I think you are. And just her believing in me, just started this little spark. It just lit me on fire.
Well,
and
she pushed you into service.
Yeah.
And
I never thought I was worthy enough,
you get the benefit if you step into that.
Service is what did it for me. Like, it's
Absolutely.
really where I got to really find myself and flourish.
I couldn't tell. I mean, Recovery Corps, K.I.S.S 101. Now you're helping out with Frogtown Rise Up Hour, Frogtown Radio. It's like, how cool, just and like you said, you work at Minnesota Recovery Connection too, and now you're going to be doing naloxone trainings. I mean, I couldn't tell that service was something that you enjoy. I couldn't.
Yes, I just I never gave myself that chance. And so once I started to do just little by little, it's like amazing. And then I started. So like I led that women's group for a while, over a year through COVID. That was insane. I got sober just in the nick of time, let me tell you. Right. But we did that. And then I decided, like, being a mom is hard, right? Especially in the recovery world. And being a single mom of 5 is damn hard. And I remember I went to a meeting and there was 4 of us other moms, and we were talking about this great story, and we got cut off, and it wasn't like people were trying to be rude, but like we got together afterwards and we're like, we need our own meeting. Like, just a place where moms or parents, people that have or had maybe lost little ones in their life can talk about that guilt, because it's unlike anything else, that shame and guilt. And so I started Bad Moms group Monday nights. You could go, it's virtual, in person, but like that was where all walls are down. It's such a great release. And that's where, like, I think my biggest shame was those things as a mother I said I never would do. Like, I just kept punishing myself over. So once I started this Bad Moms group, that was where I really got to start believing in myself and living in that freedom and seeing the promises come true. And
awesome.
I haven't looked back,
Yeah.
And
well, it's funny. It's a funny thing that happens because a lot of people see a need. A lot of people are able to, because we all have a judgmental nature, and we're like, it's just the ego, but it's like, we can all see a need and be like, oh, well, they need that. But it's, not very many people understand the concept that we are responsible, that if we see a need, that we try to do what we can to fill that need, because you might be the only one who does. Right. So you did that. And that was the start. That was the start of you feeling like you're making a difference to the community around you. Right. And that's awesome. So then what?
So then we went, it's just been a whirlwind. So I went on 2218's Attitude for Gratitude podcast. Jeez, here we go. Yeah. And I went on that show with that podcast with my bestie Sarah to talk about Bad Moms. And I just remember thinking, this is cool. I like being loud and proud about recovery. I'm not going to shut up about it anymore. Oh, yeah. And I did the Recovery Coach Academy with Hope Dealer, shout out, at MRC. And it was amazing that week, because everything that was said in that 1 week of training and programming was like something I've been waiting to hear 17 years ago, 19 years ago. Like, just the fact that, like, I say bridge recovery, because for me, I am recovery. I'm not this one thing or that one thing, or just because I don't fit in this little box. I never have. And so all the things that I learned in that week just like spoke to my soul. Yeah. And so, like, I'm like, this is what I was meant to do, like.
Dude, I always say that, and it still rings true right now. It's like, that was one of the most profound experiences of my life, doing Recovery Coach Academy.
Mm-hmm.
I got so much out of that. It was a beautiful, hard, messy, enlightening experience. You know, it was just cool.
It was like the first time I was looked at as like those past experiences, that all that awfulness was like justified. Like it was like that is your lived experience. And that is what we need. You know, we need you. Like, you
Right.
need me. I
Mhm.
need you.
Dude, you know,
So,
at the end when they make you do the elevator pitch.
yes.
So I broke down crying to Chris Kelly, who was the co-executive director at the time for Minnesota Recovery Connection. Actually, you know, Wendy Jones, who's your current
Director.
Director,
She's fantastic.
We did the motivational interviewing workshop together. We like, because we were in the same Recovery Coach Academy class.
Oh, no way.
That was at
That's
the time
great.
when she worked for Minnesota Historical Society or whatever. But anyway, that's beside the point. I broke down to Chris Kelly at the end of the week when they were handing out the certificates and stuff, because what made me cry was, like I was saying, that, you know, this is the first time I can remember that I have felt valued and respected. And I just want to thank you for that, because I didn't think I mattered even then, you know. And like I used to always ask my sponsor, like, when does the self-love thing come, dude? It took a long time for it to come for me. And yeah. But Emma, that whole week, man, it was like crazy, because I was like people really cared what I had to say, like that.
Yeah.
Like it meant something, you know, and like it had value. And I just was like blown away by the whole experience. And I learned a ton, obviously, because they challenge your thinking and your belief system in there. But yeah, sorry.
100%.
We're like,
I love that you said that.
Yeah.
No, I love that you said that, because like it took me 39, almost 40 years to freaking love myself.
Right.
Like, it's funny because I look at the mirror and I'm like, I would totally hang out with myself. I love myself. This is weird. Like, this is crazy.
Man, I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, look at you. You do you, boo. Oh, I will.
Nice.
But no, it was a long process. I've never ever been here. And I can actually sit with myself and like be totally content. You know, I never took my sponsors' suggestions until recently. Like, I mean, I did, but like I'd always like conflict with her, or, you know, I'd always be resilient. And I remember I always look back and I'm like, why didn't I just listen to her? And like, it's been almost a year now, I think in May. But one of the things she suggested was like, don't get in any other relationships. Just be in a relationship with yourself. And I got to tell you, it's great. I don't know if I ever want to get in a relationship with anyone else. Like, I love myself. I'm happy with myself. Like, I'm good with this.
That's good.
Give me some cats.
Some cats. You need the cat lady started.
Once the kids are gone, you know, just get the cats or a little hobby farm or whatever. But like, I really spent this last year really growing, and just my new addiction is knowledge. It sounds so freaking nerdy, I know that, but I just seek learning anything that, you know, sticks out to me, anything I can, not just myself, but, you know, just around me, and understanding all these things that like I would hide or run from before, you know, like especially with trauma. Like, you know, recently I've been really digging into that. And like, everyone thinks trauma is like a brain thing, but it's actually more of a nervous system thing. And I remember when I was told, like, your body remembers things your brain doesn't. Yeah. And there's all these things that now I can see why I do these things, and reflecting, especially in relationships, you know, it's something I don't necessarily remember specifically, but my body remembers, you know. I don't mean to be that way.
I still go into trauma responses sometimes.
Yes.
You know, it's a thing. And, you know, we we have a kit of tools, that we can choose to or not choose to utilize when those things come about,
Mm-hmm.
But the beautiful thing is if we choose to use them, we can get through anything life throws at us and stay, sober. It's just, life is gonna, because a lot of that shit's locked up, compartmentalized in some
I
little.
just scratched the surface.
Oh yeah,
little by little.
we're gonna be
scary.
peeling back the onions of this, or the layers, the onions, whatever. We're gonna be peeling back the layers of this onion for the rest of our lives, man. Yeah,
it's true.
I got it. It's true, man. So you did the Recovery Coach Academy, and then was that like right then and there you like signed up for AmeriCorps or
yep.
And then how did I guess? And then you ended up working at Minnesota Recovery Connection because they intern people from AmeriCorps.
Yeah, they were like, well, here's some places. And as soon as they said MRC, I was like, that's the only place. That's the only one. Yep, number one choice.
You know what I found out the other day? Kind of a little bit off topic, but that there's 17 RCOs in the state of Minnesota now. And I was seriously, this was just the other day. I was like cheering in my chair because last I heard there was only 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, I don't follow it, obviously I don't have an RCO or whatever. I'm not part of one anymore. I mean, I used to volunteer for MRC, but dude, I was just like, damn, 17 now. That's kick ass, bro.
Yes.
I love
and that's
it.
what I feels like so important is that we talk about recovery, because unfortunately, certain programs are passed, like they're like, oh, we got to keep this, within the groups. And yes, within sharing and meetings, that stuff stays anonymous. But outside of that, we need to talk about why it's so great.
Right. Well, anonymity is a personal decision, right? Like I'm going to hold, I think what anonymous in like Alcoholics Anonymous meant was more, that you're going to hold my confidence and I'm going to hold your confidence,
Yes.
But even then,
anybody
even then, dude, they were doing, like they were recovering out loud. Those like main people, the big dogs in AA and stuff, the original OGs, they were doing it. They were recovering out loud. So it's, I just think people misunderstood it or something.
They totally misunderstand it.
Yeah. Because it's a personal choice and I choose to recover out loud. It holds me accountable. I get the help that I need when I'm honest about what I'm going through and that I'm struggling, or if I was an asshole, or if I'm feeling some type of way, I'm getting a trauma response. If I don't talk about that stuff, nobody knows I need somebody to reach out to me. But if I do, then I get the help I need. It opens the door for God to work in my life, through others. And that's what this is about, man. And that's what helps us sustain it. So it's crazy, man.
It's so crazy.
You are doing awesome things. I want to talk a little bit about K.I.S.S Recovery 101. What's the deal with that now? How long you been doing it? What's your mission?
Well, so funny thing is I got this dream job at MRC, and a week later, a week or two after that, I got COVID. So I was forced quarantine, and back then it was like 14 days. And of course it's me and my kiddos. And so it was just 3 weeks of isolation. And I'm a busy person. Like I was losing my mind a little bit. And I had that great experience on the other podcast. And I was like, you know what? I'm just there's not that many, well, I wasn't aware of many females that just kind of lead a podcast or have a strong voice in a podcast as dominant female. And so I was like, I'm just gonna do this thing. And I like 4 days I just did a lot of research. I found my platform I wanted to go with, and the whole concept really is that there really are many pathways to find recovery. I know for myself, I needed multiple. And who is to say that one path is going to work for one person? That's just ridiculous.
Right.
So on this show, I really like talking about all the different paths that are out there and what works for, whatever guest comes on. And I learn a lot from my guests that come on. But really, like,
you sound like me and Charles talking about this show right now. I like it.
Yeah. I just learned so much from other people but really at the end of the day, my kids, they know I'm an open book, but it's still a little scary for them to maybe talk about all the things that Mom does for her recovery. They know it's important, but they don't get to see the whole side of me, and I know they will in due time, but I can't hold all this awesome recovery inside. So like the podcast is this great opportunity for me to just get out all that crazy, awesome recovery stuff. And it's recorded. So like at the end of the day, the kiddos, when they get older, when they're ready, they got all these recordings of their mom, and I hope they say, "Oh man, Mom was pretty awesome."
Or I'm gonna check that out. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but there's this whole other side that I haven't been able to share with them yet, but I will when they're ready.
It's badass. And I love your enthusiasm. See, this is what I was saying. Like, I couldn't wait to hear your story because I didn't get to really ever hear all that stuff, and knowing like that energy is undeniable, and you can feel it. And I know that feeling because I have that in me too. And I can remember when I first felt it, like it was yesterday, and just like, this is it, man. Like, why would I ever want to have been stuck in, like, this is better than any high that I ever used to chase, dude. Like, what the hell?
Yes.
I was so missing out back in the day, Yeah. I mean, I don't regret any of it because like we talked about earlier, that's all gifts, and it was training, it was building us up for this. This wouldn't be able to be a purpose, for us if we didn't live in that life for as long as we did. But man, it's just crazy shit. Yeah, the grass is definitely greener on this side. I love that. K.I.S.S Recovery 101, you guys find that on YouTube, and are you on any other platforms?
Facebook.
For now.
We're going to branch out later.
You can listen to it on Facebook?
Yeah, so there's a private Facebook group because I want people, if they want to stay anonymous, but they want to participate, ask questions or comments. It's a live show, 8 p.m. Central Time, Sundays.
So it's not a page, it's a group.
Yes, it's a group.
Copy.
Yes.
Copy that.
So if you want to stay private, you could go through the Facebook or YouTube.
Awesome.
For now.
Yeah, you guys got to check it out. And then this other thing, which I'm curious, like what exactly your role is there. I'm looking forward to hearing this. And I guess the next weekend I'll get to actually witness what you do too, because I'll be on there. But recovery radio, it's called the Rise Up Hour. It's on it's on 94.1 FM here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota.
Frogtown Community Radio.
Yep. And it's called the Rise Up Hour with Muhana. And Bridges, you've been working with him. So why don't you tell us about that experience and what you do there?
That was wonderful. So Muhana is like us, Jason. He's just a ball of energy, all about recovery, loud and proud. And he asked me to come on to share my story on the Rise Up Hour. And I did, and it was great. I did see, though, I didn't realize, so he has chronic pain. And I noticed, during my interview, he was kind of struggling a little bit physically, just pushing buttons and doing all the things, but still full energy. I had no idea. And I remember the next week listening to his show, and I was hearing there was some technical difficulty. So all I did was call him up, and I'm like, Mahana, do you want any help on the show? Like, I would love to be your tech assistant or something like that, just to help you. And so literally it just started out me getting some training and learning how to work the studio side of it. And it's wonderful because now every Sunday, like, I get to participate when he brings on the guests. I mean, it can be authors or other people doing podcasts, or like we got other big names coming down the pipeline. But like, I just get to be in the back, being of service, being helpful, and learning so much as I go along. And yeah, Mahana's he's wonderful. He's just so accepting of everybody. He brings everybody to the table together.
Yeah. So you're doing like the production stuff, like you said, pushing buttons. What do you mean? Like, is it like the soundboard or whatever?
Yeah, the mics and they got their own recording, software. So I got
I
trained
don't
in
know.
that.
That's why I want to hear about it. I'm curious about it.
Yeah. So like, I know how to upload it to the station, and I'm just like the tech studio person for that show. I'll fill in like if a guest doesn't come or whatever. But it worked out great because, I think it's important that yes, recovery is like my main passion right now. But for me, I have to have something outside the arena. So through my training with the Frogtown Community Radio, I am actually officially now a co-host of the Saturday morning show, the 9:45 show. And that's just a show about music, which is the best.
Seriously?
Has nothing to do with recovery. Yeah,
dude,
so you should listen to that.
Now watch, dude, in a few years, you're going to end up being on like a real radio station. Not that that's not a real one, but like a bigger name one. I don't know. That's crazy. Awesome, man. Good for you.
It's all volunteer stuff.
It sounds hella fun.
It is. It's so fun because originally, like, music was my therapy, was my therapist. So now I get to just come on there and talk about it. It's great. True
that. Man, that's cool. Yeah, you're just doing all sorts of good stuff and you're having fun while you're doing it. How do you balance all this with the kiddos? How old are your kids now? And like, how do you find balance with them, with this?
That's what's so wonderful is like my two oldest are teenagers. They're 16 and now 18. He just turned 18. Is like,
dang,
they know how important it is for mom to have recovery and do recovery. And they also like, we're a team now, like they definitely support those couple of meetings that I go to in the weekend stuff. But, they help with their little brothers. So their two little brothers are 3 and 5. And then my Juliet, she's 11, right in the middle. We kind of rotate, like we got our YMCA gym family thing, and we have our Friday family fun nights where we veg out, eat pizza. But they know mom has her mom's meeting. She has her podcast on Sundays, and everything else just kind of fits in the middle, but it helps keep that balance. And when we're not in balance, the Friday family fun night will become family meeting night. And we just listen to each other and talk to each other about, how we're feeling, where we're going. And, it's like I hear so many people
teach them these skills that you've learned, right? Like,
yes,
in recovery.
They got to see, mom, I can't express enough how important it is that I used to hide from my past, and I never told them anything that was going on, that how I was raised. And so that open communication with my children, I treat them as equals in a sense of conversation, as humans. And I feel like because I've given them that respect and that level of communication, we have had deep conversations. Like I hear a lot of people complain or, just say their teenagers are a lot, but I'm really proud of my two teenagers. I mean, they are just wonderful human beings, and they really understand things on a level of life. I think I've meet adults that still don't get it.
Well, so I'm sure they're wise beyond their years too, because they've done some living.
Yeah.
They've done some living.
But I remember the first time they came home, and I remember, it was months later, but that first time I got that trust back, I really felt it. My son said to me, Mom, I've noticed you always got things together. Like Dad, he's job to job and girlfriend to girlfriend, and he moves around, but you're just solid. You just always keep things. I don't know how he said it, but it took me aback. Like I thought I'm a mess. I thought I'm just like this, whatever, bad mom, but it's badass mom because he recognized that like, no matter what, I'm always going to be there for him. And all the struggles, like he saw me, like he got to see that you can come through this, you can overcome it. And if anything, like I'm stronger now.
Yeah.
And
You
I
showed
practice
them,
what I preach.
you showed them hope, man. You've shown them hope. It's beautiful. I'm proud of you.
So
Really,
thanks you.
truly. I have some rapid fire questions that we close with. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Number one, we think daily recovery routines are very important for a sustainable and meaningful recovery. So what does your daily recovery routine consist of, if you have one?
For sure, I like to read a meditation. I have multiple books, and my friends will share their meditation readings for the day. But it's really cool to I like to take one sentence or one piece out of a meditation reading, kind of make that day that intention, whatever aha thing I got out of that. And then I always end my night with a check-in with my higher power, my great spirit. I just reflect on my day. I like to really look at the things that I could have maybe done better. And just, it's just a check-in I have to do for myself, but just to make sure that I stay aware of where I'm at and to really just feel like I'm living and doing the next right thing. And I'm not perfect. So when I know I messed up, I'm like, all right, I'm going to make sure I check on this tomorrow. Just a constant self-reflection. I do that every night. I have to.
Absolutely. Sounded a lot like the 10th and 11th step to me. And then as we've already talked at great lengths about, you got the 12th step in spades. You're sure doing a lot of service work and good for a lot of people, and, manifesting positive vibes for yourself, by giving of yourself to others. So good on you. Next question. What is a book or a piece of literature that has had the biggest impact on your recovery?
I do read a lot.
You can only pick one.
One book?
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, it's just going to sound cheesy, but The 5 Love Languages, because I really needed to understand that for myself mostly, but everyone has their own way to feel loved. And if you don't understand your own language or another person's language, you might feel like you're loving someone and they love you, but you don't really feel it in your soul. So like the 5 love languages help me understand how I give love and how I feel love. And that was huge for my relationship with my children and future, whatever down the line, but just understanding like, acts of service. I thought for sure it was quality time. No, it's acts of service. Yeah. That sounds so like robot-y, but it makes sense.
I just thought of the robot Rosie on the Jetsons for some reason when you said that shit. I was like, oh.
But that kind of falls into the light of service, that does make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that. I don't think I've had that book recommended, but it makes perfect sense. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think why they tell you not to get in a relationship, right, for a while, because it's like, if anything, after I did a year, which trust me, I didn't do it right away. I've fucking had epic failures at relationships for the first couple of years before I finally did. I was like, I'm going to do a year. And I did that for over a year. But by the end of the year, if anything, it raised more questions, a little bit more fear, a little bit more anxiety, because I didn't know if I could effectively love another person, let alone if I was in a place yet where I was ready to let somebody try to love me, or you know what I mean? It was just weird. It really takes that long just to kind of sift through that shit. So crazy. That's a good recommendation. Thanks for that. Next question. What do you think is the greatest challenge you've had in recovery?
To actually do the things that I can so easily tell others to do for their own health and their own program.
Take your own advice.
Take my own advice. Seriously.
That's hilarious. I skipped one on accident, so I'm gonna back it up. What is the best piece of advice that you have received?
In general?
In recovery, probably, I guess, but I think that these recovery things, they apply to everything in life anyway. So
Yeah.
I try to keep it more generalized than that, because it may be something that your grandpa told you years ago, but you never put it into practice until you got into recovery, and you're like, damn, that shit actually works. I don't know.
Yeah. What comes to mind is don't live in the past, or the past won't let you live.
Ooh, I like that. I never actually heard that worded that way before. That's nice. All right, next question. What is your greatest success in recovery?
Oh man, just getting that 2 years. I could never do it. I could always get so close. It's like I'm my own worst enemy. And so I would totally like, what's the word? I would just somehow find a reason or a way, or, I never 2 year. It was that I called it that untouchable 2 year. And
Oh
so when
yeah.
I got that made me feel confident, like, yes, I found my path. I'm doing
You
something
got the
right.
black, if you go to NA, that's when you get the black belt,
The
like
ninja.
the black one. Yeah. Wah! Hell yeah. Oh, she's got it on her bag. There you go. Nice. All right, one more heavy kind of one, and then we'll finish it with a fun one. But the next question is, what is something that you haven't forgiven yourself or somebody else for?
Mm.
And there's Sage going crazy again. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Something I haven't. I learned from a counselor. She had me write this big ass letter to myself of all the things that I hated about myself, or all the things. And I remember writing out this awful letter, like, you deserve everything you've gotten. You deserve to be punished. You deserve to be unloved. And I remember her flipping around, and she goes, Bridge, you have a daughter, don't you? And I go, yes. She goes, well, let's say your daughter 5-10 years from now sitting in your shoes and has gone through all the things that you've gone through. Would you say these things to her on this letter? And I'm like, no, of course not. She's like, well, what would you say? And I said, well, I would say, honey, I love you. Like, I support you. Like, you can tell me anything. I would do anything for you. Like, and she goes, Bridge, you need to say those things to yourself. Why are you saying that? And it was like, that moment was the moment I can definitely say in my life, I was finally able to forgive myself, because I could never forgive myself. And it's like, I visually could see that little broken girl that was inside me for so long. I could see her, and I was finally able to like forgive myself. So like,
Awesome.
I don't know. I've totally forgiven. I've been able to really forgive myself. And even on a day-to-day basis, I muck up, it happens. But I'm like, I learned from that, fail early, fail often, but fail forward, right?
Love it.
So
Wonderful. That's good. All right. Last, but certainly not least, probably my favorite question of the show. What is a song that symbolizes your recovery? Again,
well, there's
you can only
many
pick one.
songs.
You gotta pick a favorite one, the one that nails it right on the head.
Well, how about present moment? Because I do get favorite songs on a weekly basis. So the one I just keep listening to over and over and over again is Lord Huron, and it's called Meet Me in the Woods. And I don't know what it's actually about, but when I listen to it, for me, it's just like coming out of that darkness, and finding the light. But I still get in those dark places. But now I have this beautiful recovery family. Like, I just went to the candlelight last night, and it literally turns off the light, right? But I get to share that darkness in the woods with the people that I love and that I trust and I know love and trust me, So like, yes, I found the light, but like, there's still going to be life on life terms, right? There's still going to be dark times, but now I'm not alone.
Yeah.
We're not alone.
Well, you know
That's
what?
what the song is.
Art is subjective, man. And it means different things to different people. So it doesn't matter if the writer intended it for it to be about recovery or not. It is for you.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to go to look it up and tell me what it means. It'll ruin it for me. I'll probably never listen to it.
No, just hang on, hold fast to your representation of it.
Yeah.
Man, so Bridge, thanks again. I appreciate you coming on and having a good recovery talk with me and sharing.
Thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, it was easy, my friend. But anyways, you guys out there, take care of yourselves and each other in the week ahead, and just be good. Keep fighting the good fight. And until then, we will see you later.
Thank you for being a part of The Way Out. We appreciate your ears. We're sharing powerful recovery stories and recovery power topics every week, so keep listening up. If you would like to reach out to the show, you can visit us on the web at wayoutcast.com. That's wayoutcast, all one word, .com. There you can subscribe to the Way Out podcast on all of the major podcast aggregators, such as iTunes, CastBox, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, Overcast, and more. Or simply drop your hosts a friendly email at share@wayoutcast.com. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, contact us at share@wayoutcast.com. See you next time, and remember, if you don't change, your sobriety date will.